Well, I hate to break it to PayPal bulls, but the stock that you're invested in is dead money. Let's dive right into the Q1 2025 results and let's see this amazing growth company in all of its glory. So they just released their first quarter 2025 results, and it's good to look at financial statements to get an idea of what's going on in the company and what their strategy is for the future. Apparently, we're bullish on PayPal because they now have receipts with a bunch of additional advertisements on them. And that's going to somehow make PayPal this dominant payment processor in a world with massive competition. And because Jeremy's pumping it. So we're going to make fun of it. So net revenues increased 1%. 1% growth in revenue. Do you know what the inflation rate was? Probably like what? 2.5%, 3%. They're growing revenues slower than inflation. This is a company that has peaked out. This is not a fast-growing company. This is not a growth stock. Transaction margin dollars, this is their profit from transactions. Remember, they charge you when you receive money as a vendor. I know because I get money from PayPal. Increased 7%. So they're increasing their transaction margin dollars. The whole plan of PayPal is because they're basically a peaked out company, they're not really growing revenues or accounts anymore. They're trying to squeeze every last dollar they can of profits. And that's perfectly fine. The company has value and the company makes money. But this isn't going to be like a 10x stock. Okay. This is basically like a Coca-Cola in a sense. It's a company that has basically reached its terminal market share, or if it hasn't, it's growing slowly. It's not going to be this fast, amazing growth stock. And that's priced into the company. GAAP operating income increased 31%. So good. They're increasing their transaction margin. They're increasing their operating income. They're increasing their operating margin. They're focusing on profitability. But you can only grow earnings per share and profits so far. You can only make so many cuts to your expenses. And then you're probably not even growing earnings anymore. Uh-oh. And GAAP EPS increased 56%. Total payment volume increased 3%. So the total amount of money going back and forth increased 3%. But payment transactions decreased 7%. So they're having fewer transactions happening, but the size of those transactions is increasing. But that should be a little concerning that the amount of volume, the amount of transactions that are actually happening is going down. It's just there's bigger transactions, but fewer transactions. There's more dollars in the transaction, but the amount of transactions is going down. Payment transactions per active account on a trailing 12-month basis decreased 1%. Active accounts increased 2%. They grew their active accounts by 2%. The number of transactions fell by 7%, and the volume increased 3%. Is this a growth stock, people? Let's be honest here. No, it's not. Now, the bright side is they have cash flow from operations of $1.2 billion and free cash flow of $1 billion. So you're getting the company's profitable. It makes a lot of money, and they're tightening the screws of profitability. But like I said, that doesn't solve the problem of no growth because you can only cut expenses so far. Debt totaled $12.6 billion, and they repurchased $1.5 billion to stockholders. They returned $1.5 billion to stockholders by repurchasing approximately 19 million shares of common stock. Okay. So amazing. Let's see. So the net revenues increased 1%. Operating income's up 31%. We already saw that. Net income's up. It looks like they had a pretty significant decrease in their effective tax rate. I wonder if what they did. I wonder if they got some kind of tax benefit that offset that. But a decent chunk of their net income was some kind of tax benefit potentially. Okay. So when you're always looking at this stuff, always remember, look at GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles. This is the actual rules of accounting. Non-GAAP is made up, worthless garbage. 2025 guidance. PayPal is maintaining full year guidance due to uncertainty in the global macro environment, despite a strong start to the year. So their GAAP earnings per share guidance for Q2 2025 is between 1.24 to 1.26 of earnings per share. So if we go look at the last quarter, Q2 of 2024. Let's do the annual. Q2 2024. Their earnings per share was 1.08. So they're projecting their profits to grow from 1.08 per share from the quarter last year to 1.24. So they're increasing profitability. And then the full year GAAP earnings per share is just under 5. So if we look at 2024, their total earnings per share was 4. So they're increasing their earnings per share by about 25%. That's their projected increase, which is great, but that's not going to go on forever. Not good. Okay. So I'm trying to understand the bull case for this company. Let's look at their balance sheet. $7.5 billion of cash, $3.7 billion of short-term investments. They have a solid cash position. Trying to see if there's anything that stands out to me. Let's see. Long-term debt. They increased long-term debt by about $1.5, $2 billion. Okay. And their treasury stock increased a little bit, and that means they bought back shares. Let's see what they're doing on their income statement. So we know revenues are slightly up 1%. They cut down their transaction expense. That increases their margins. Transaction and credit losses are actually up. Their credit losses went from $321 million to $371 million. And if the economy takes a dump, I wonder how much that's going to increase in the future. They cut customer support and operations by about $56 million. They increased sales and marketing. So they increased sales and marketing by about $60 million. And they grew their revenue $1 million. Like how much did they grow their revenue? 7791. So they grew their revenue by $92 million, but they spent an additional $67 million on marketing. $67 million on marketing increase to grow their revenue, 80 something million, 90 million. Wow, that's a big payoff. Killing it, PayPal. General and admin has gone up a little bit by about 40 million, but restructuring costs are down. So it looks like that drop in restructuring cost also helped their profit margins. Let's see. Income tax expense is about the same. Yeah, I mean, it looks like the big difference was they cut their transaction expense and they had fewer restructuring and other costs. That's what really kind of pushed their margins up a little bit. And they spent more on advertising, sales, and marketing, but that only translated to a 1% growth. Wow. Let's see. Okay. This is their statement of cash flows. We know they have slightly more credit losses. Stock-based compensation is down. Okay, I'm trying to see if there's anything major they did. Loans receivable, purchases of investments. Let's see. They spent $1.5 billion on buying back treasury stock. And then borrowings under financing arrangements, they borrowed about $1.5 billion. So looks like they borrowed roughly amount what they bought back in stock. Wow. I don't get it, boys. So let's see. Transaction revenues. So it says year over year, the transaction revenues, if you compare this year to March of the prior year, actually went down. Their transaction revenues actually went down. They had $7.016 billion in March 31st, 2025, and they had $7.034 billion in March 31st, 2024. So their transaction revenues are actually flat, or they're slightly down. They rounded. Their revenues are down when it comes to transactions. But their other value-added services, they saw 17% growth from $665 million to $775 million. So the only growth is in their value-added services. but it's a tiny portion of their total revenue. It's about 10% of their revenue. So only 10% of their revenue diversification is growing. Everything else is flat. Wonder how much these value-added services can grow. So that's the only thing that's growing. U.S. revenues are actually down slightly from 4.46 billion to 4.46 billion. International revenues are up an astounding $6 million. That's right. $6 million. Wow, that's some growth, bro. For a company that reports billions and billions, they grew their international revenues 6 million, but their US revenue dropped. Wow. Okay. Active accounts. So they did grow their active accounts, but the active accounts are trading less. It's a pretty significant drop. Their total number of payment transactions dropped from 6.5 billion to, wow, that's a pretty big drop. 6.5 billion to 6 billion. But people, what's going on here? Man, people aren't using PayPal as much. Let's see. Payment transactions per active account. So on average, the number of payment transactions in the prior year was 60. Now it's 59.4. People just aren't using it as much. Okay. I mean, the only bright spot is their transaction margin going up. But I wonder if that's because there's fewer transactions. That could be part of the reason why their transaction margin is going up. Oh my God. So I'm just not seeing it, folks. I mean, like, what is the bull case for PayPal? The only good thing they're doing, I mean, they're buying back shares. That's wonderful. But the only growth story is their value add. And that's 10% of their revenues. And it's not growing that fast. Okay. Their main revenue source, transaction revenues, slightly decreased. What do you think is going to happen if we get into a recession? Probably going to drop even more. Where's the growth? Where's the vertical line? I don't see it. Okay. Let me know in the comments. Before we get to the comments, book a tax consultation. Let me do your taxes. Let me do your bookkeeping. Let me give you a sponsored video. Buy my book, Stop Being a Broke Loser. If you click this link, it takes you to a landing page where you can see all the services that I provide. Tax preparation, I'm a certified public accountant, bookkeeping, etc., etc. Click on the link, pick out my services, schedule a consultation, give me money, and we're all going to be happy. Woo, 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 woo. But Strongman, Coke is up 18% and PayPal is down 20% year to date. How are they the same? I mean, it was just an example. I mean, I think Coke has better staying power than PayPal. Coke actually has a brand and a moat. There's 100,000 different payment transactions. Unfortunately, no. Let's see. If PayPal sucks, why does it keep going up? You don't know the stock market, just account. Okay, PayPal's going up? I mean, is it really? Okay, let's see PayPal going up, guys. This is PayPal going up. This is PayPal going up right here. Everybody see it going up? This is the 5-year chart. So all the geniuses, basically what they did is they pull up the 1-year chart and they say, oh, I bought it at the bottom, see? And then it went up to like 80 or 90, and then it absolutely freaking collapsed back to this. It's been hovering around the 60 range for a long time. Okay. This company saw massive growth during the pandemic. Everybody got excited, and then it freaking collapsed when the pandemic ended. Man, it's going up, bro. It's going up. Let's see. Tanner already sold PayPal. Why are you grilling him? Did he? I'm sure he sold it at a massive gain, too. Payment processors worldwide, including Congress's current review, are having their interchange fees reviewed and cut. That's interesting. I use PayPal through my McDonald's app. I get all the good McDonald's deal on the app. And when I hit buy, I go through my PayPal. See, like when I get paid for tax services, I really get paid through Zelle. Because Zelle, there's no fee. Whenever I get money from PayPal, through PayPal, they charge me like 2 or 3%, which is freaking annoying. With Zelle, there's no fee. So ideally, when I get paid, and I'm going to start doing this in the future, I'm going to specifically request Zelle as the preferred method of payment. Let's see. Who remember? Oh, yeah, Tanner destroyed me, bro. Last live video, you were in a basement. I thought you lost all your money in VC. I always do my lives from here. This is the exact same spot I always do them. Let's see. Well, thank you. All right, guys. Well, that's the video. Like, subscribe. Check out my services link tree. Let me do your taxes. Let me do your bookkeeping. Check out my book. Let me do a sponsored video for you. You can do one-on-one tutoring with me or constant consulting or just talk to me. Click the link tree. It'll be in the pinned comment. Have a wonderful, delicious day. Cheers.